Ray, do you want to get started? Okay. So good evening or good afternoon and almost evening. Welcome to the first meeting this year of the Reading Consortium's Social Determinants Work Group. My name is Jeff Menzer. I'm the co-chair with Ray Avery Jones. We are excited to be back online with our meeting schedule. And just want to give a shout out to Haley from IPA, who is our keeper, and she does a phenomenal job of keeping us on task and organized. Thank you, Haley, for all that. So let's move to the next slide, Haley, and we'll continue with our same norms. We'd ask if you're a work group member, please take a moment to drop your name in the chat for official attendance. And we can get that recorded. As I stated earlier, the minutes that are up for approval on the next slide, we are going to delay that till next meeting. The minutes have not been distributed for review and approval. So we're going to do 2 sets of minutes next month. We'll do the minutes from this meeting as well as the May meeting. So we can skip over that slide, Haley. And then just to kind of give you an overview of where we are right now for this meeting, we're going to share some high-level Delaware Department of Ed updates around their staff. They've had significant turnover and new folks in new roles and new folks to the department. So it's just kind of to give the group here an idea of who we're interacting with. We have been working diligently this summer with the Department of Ed and the Data Service Center around the data dashboard. And we're going to get what I hope to be an eye-opening update from Katie and Nicole from Data Service Center this evening. And then we'll get an overview of the Boost 22 effort that was talked about last year, kind of highlight where Boost 26 is headed, and then some self-care for educator series sharing. And then we'll have our public comment at the end. Those interested in making public comment, please chat Haley your name at any time during the meeting if you want to be on the docket for a 3-minute public comment. Otherwise, also, you know, if you've been attending these meetings before, we're pretty casual. We get to that point and ask if there's anybody from the public that would like to comment. Ray, did I miss any points there to get us started that you can think of? No.
No, but I think that after, right before public comment, we should see if any of our work group members have announcements or updates in terms of interesting, important initiatives that are going on. Great,
good point. Okay, that said, we attempted to get a staff member from DOE to come down and share some of the change, but they were unable to make it fit. I know they have a big event tomorrow night that they're probably getting ready for with the Teacher of the Year. So I know that the folks responsible for this chart are the primary people planning that event. So we'll give them some grace and space on that. And so Haley, you want to share? We're going to roll through the slides. These are going to be more like matter of record. So we have them. So you'll have a hard copy of who's new and what role. I think this goes from the yes, it does. It goes from the higher level down, the senior level leadership team you can see here. And we are fortunate we have one of those members here with us this evening, as you all didn't know. Caitlin is like not new to the department, new back. I don't know. It's hard to keep track of Caitlin, but she's back in the room.
Keep track of me too.
So we're glad to have her back in DOE, and also glad to have her joining us this evening. Appreciate your joining. We scroll down to the next. Those are the associate secretaries, and then the hierarchy works down. Now it goes to they have their departments that are on their work groups that are underneath them, and we'll see a little bit more of the change here at the director level. Those are the folks who are under the associate secretaries that do that lead many of these departments you see on here. I will just point out of note, there is still one vacancy in the associate secretary realm under workforce support. That's formerly, it's kind of actually it was a recreated position, I believe, at the beginning of last year. And then within months of it being announced, the person who was filling it, Luke Ryan, ended up taking a job at the federal level, doing much similar work on a larger scale. So I believe they're in the process of almost announcing that vacancy being filled. I think they're still working through that from what I heard at the Chiefs meeting last week. Next slide, Haley. And here's the newest directors. I can't speak to all of the folks on here, but Dale Matusevich has been involved in special education in transition work for many years in Delaware. I don't recognize John Wickert's name as being from any place other than he was at the department. Mike Saylor's is involved heavily with a lot of educational leadership work in the state. And you can see the other folks who are joining from different offices across the state on here. And these are the current directors now. These are the folks that, this is all the deck, and not just the new, but this is everybody as it sits now. Most of the folks in this room are pretty well versed in what these offices do, but if you have any questions that you'd like Haley or to collect or to ask Allison back for more specifics, or to ask anybody from the department any questions about the folks that you saw on here, please shoot those to Haley and we'll pass them along to Allison. But I think Allison did a nice job of really giving us the high level overview of the new landscape. Ray, did you want to follow up with that? Because I know this is a conversation you and I have been having since the spring, like who's where, who's what, and who's managing what positions.
Well, we just wanted to share the information. I think we can go on.
Okay.
And send any questions in the chat or directly to Haley's email address.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, that said, I think we're going to now turn the program over to Katie Semmel, Executive Director of the Data Service Center, around the data dashboard project that DOE has contracted with them to work through as the recommendation from this work group 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. Katie, I think the floor is yours.
I'm just going to stop sharing so Katie can share.
Okay. Okay. Hi, everybody. Okay, I'm just going to give a quick overview. We're still in the middle of this work, so we still have a lot to do, but I think we're kind of on the right path at this point. So I'm just going to go over what's happened so far. One of the things that we've been doing is a focus group. So I'm going to talk about what a focus group means to us. We'll talk a little bit about a feature, because that's going to end up being what is actually displayed on the dashboard. We've had some conversations about the navigation of the site, potentially doing a subscription. And then we also have had some conversations about obtaining the city of Wilmington addresses. So just going to touch on each of those really quickly. I'm good if you've got questions in the middle, or if you want to wait till the end, it totally doesn't matter to me. So feel free to jump in and ask questions. Okay, so what's happened so far? We took, you had a couple of sessions where you did some brainstorming around data associated with the dashboard. And we took the information from those brainstorming sessions and created a mock-up just to start the conversation about here are some of the things that could go on the dashboard. We presented that information to Jeff and to Ray, as well as the folks at DOE and Haley, of course, because she's with us all the time, to kind of say, are we on the right track with this? And we got the thumbs up in terms of like being on the right track, and really decided to focus the discussions going forward around the community access to the dashboard. But what we want to do is we want to build it on top of or use the concepts of iTracker, which a lot of you may be aware of iTracker. It's a system that the Data Service Center built probably 12 to 15 years ago as a way to support the districts in the process and the data around RTI, which is now MTSS. And we just did a whole redesign of that application, but there's advantages in building it, you know, kind of thinking of that as the base. We're already pulling data from a lot of sources to present it in a way that is easy or makes it easier for schools to then make good data-driven decisions. So that infrastructure already exists today. And most of the LEAs in the state are using it. There's a handful of charter schools and districts in the state who are not using it, but the majority do. So it's very familiar to schools. And we also kind of pitched that idea because we believe it's going to be really important for the LEAs to see this, to be able to see the same information as the community, since they're the ones who may be the front line taking action on some of things that might need to be done at the student level. They'll have access to the same types of reports, things like that, but they'll be able to get to the students and kind of put interventions in place if they feel that that needs to be done with students or programs in place at the school. But we believe it's important for everybody to be speaking the same language when they're looking at the dashboard. So that's kind of why we kind of approached it from, let's build this on top of iTracker. And as I mentioned, the focus group meetings are really going to be around, from a community perspective, advocates, policymakers, civic leaders, parents, students, early childhood advocates. Like, that will inform what we then put into iTracker, and we'll use iTracker as a litmus test to make sure we're on the right track and it's actionable things and that sort of thing. Everybody comfortable with that direction? Any questions about that? Cool. Okay, so the way that we get at the information as we're defining the requirements for a system is to have focus groups. And basically what we try to get is a variety of stakeholders together to kind of talk about what's important in the system. And what we're trying to do is activities and questions and things that like that get at who are the users, what is it that they want to see, and why do they want to see it? So the why is a really important part of these conversations, because we can throw 1,000 graphs up on a dashboard, but we need to have a purpose for it so that they're actionable and people can consume it and actually take action on it. So we kind of design the conversations and activities around getting at those three primary things. Then we listen to those responses, we ask clarifying questions. We'll also kind of dig into it and research legislation, other reports, so that we're really trying to get a well-rounded knowledge and come up with the best solution that meets the requirements that are being communicated. Good so far? Okay. So as someone who might be a part of a focus group or doing some focus group conversations with us, because we'll do some one-on-ones, not just groups, we're really looking for that what and why. And we also want honest feedback. Like, if we come back and say, here's how we think we want to solve this particular feature in the system, we want you to say we hate it, right? Because we don't want to put something in the design document that doesn't make sense or isn't going to be something that's worthwhile for people to be looking at. So it's a very honest feedback sharing kind of mechanism for getting at the information that we need to develop the design document. Questions about this? If you feel like I'm speaking a totally foreign language too, please let me know. Okay,
We're
So-
backfilling the chat for you, Katie. We're monitoring the chat.
okay, good. Okay, so when we talk about features, and sometimes we'll talk about user stories, this is an example. Don't pay too close attention to what's on the graph. It's really about, here's the story, here's the feature, or the requirements that we're looking for, the who, the what, and the why. And then we can take that information, and after having a discussion about, okay, what data is involved, what might we want this to look like, what constraints might there be, that sort of thing, we can come up with a solution. So this is an example that we're using right now. And you can see that the policymaker is the user. The special programs compared to school district, county, and state is the what, and the why is the additional resources. Okay. So we're really trying to focus on those things that builds the story around what could be the feature. Okay. So a feature could be, or a user story could be like an individual element that is on the dashboard. Does that make sense to everybody? We good? Sorry, I asked that question 1,000 times, so just bear with me. Okay. And so once we have these, like we had a focus group meeting last Thursday, and we'll have another one this week. What we'll be focusing on now in this next meeting is taking the stories that that group helped to write and starting to really break them down. Okay, if this is what we want to address, then what is the data? Where can we get the data? Are there any problems with getting the data? You know, that sort of thing. And that'll all be documented when we write the design document. Okay. We've also had some conversations about the navigation and having a subscription. So this is just a very, what would be like a wireframe mock-up. So it's not high fidelity. It doesn't have colors in it. It's really just to get us thinking about what should the user's experience be as they come into the dashboard. So we talked about wanting to be able to know who people are, to see if it's being used, who's using it, that sort of thing. So we would have like a home page, and then collect some basic information. We still need to work out the details of this. But it's, you know, I just wanted to make you guys aware that we are having these conversations too. Good. And then the other big piece that we need to work out, and we have a meeting, I think, on the 20th with IPA, DOE, DSC, and CADSR to talk about a technical solution for getting the city of Wilmington addresses. I think a lot of times when we talk about the city of Wilmington, we talk about the students, and we take that group of students and then we match it to assessment data. We use that subset of kids and align it to whether they live in the city of Wilmington or not. For this dashboard to really be able to be dynamic in terms of identifying the city of Wilmington students, we really need to identify it at the address level, so that as kids move around, as kids move in, as they move out, that sort of thing, we don't have to realign that group of kids. The addresses will automatically align them to the city of Wilmington. So that'll be a big project to get that done, but we have the right people in place to have that conversation and come up with a reasonable technical solution. And that's basically it. That's where we are. I think I've got some one-on-one focus group or focus meetings scheduled for next week, as well as our larger focus group. So any questions for me?
There is a question from Dawn in the chat.
Hi, Dawn.
Hi, Katie. So my question is about focus groups and how people who are stakeholders, whether they're parents, school staff, et cetera, community partners, can find out about the focus groups and how they can participate or provide input.
So I'm going to defer to Jeff and Ray. They've really been helping to define who's part of that. So
Thank
Okay,
you.
so, thank you, Katie. So the members of the social determinant work groups will receive an invitation to participate in a focus group. And we've constructed this group to be representative of stakeholders, but we're gonna go beyond this group. So we'll start with the members of the social determinants work group that would like to participate. Everyone will be sent a features activity so that there's forethought before going into the focus group meeting. So look for that. Then if you have representatives of stakeholder groups, be they parents or staff, community, civic leaders, whatever the case may be, if you send their names and their contact information to Haley, we're going to be forming focus groups, homogeneous focus groups. So for instance, the parent voice doesn't get lost mixed in with people that are in the professional kind of capacities. Not that parents are not professionals, but we have a range of professions. We want to make sure the parent voice is central in a parent focus group.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's
Thank you.
helpful.
Mhm.
Katie, thank you. I mean, I think you hit the highlights. I know I was unable to attend the focus group meeting last week because I was at the Chiefs retreat, but I plan on being at the one on Thursday, this coming week. And the design is to continue to gather feedback from stakeholders, because to Katie's point, the why is essential in building this out and in highlighting the right features. So I do think that we're on the right track with the work. It feels, having been an eye tracker user for years, and those of you who are in education know the feel of it, know that it is intuitive and it is user friendly as it moves forward. So anything being pulled from that is going to be the same. So it's exciting to see the work get to this point. Is any other questions in the from the work group members? Great. Thank you very much. And the email will be coming out from Haley regarding your invites, and then feeling free to forward it as we schedule more of the focus groups. We were looking at quite a lengthy run up here in the fall into the winter, I believe. So there'll be a lot of interaction with DSC around this work.
I just have one more question. Will there be, so there are pre-existing groups that meet, for example, Wilmington Early Care and Education Council, we meet monthly. Invite a group to a meeting that's scheduled, would it be appropriate to ask to invite Katie or to invite the team to come to a meeting that's already scheduled? Do you understand what I'm
Yeah, I
asking?
understand what you're saying. I think that does make sense. We just hadn't really thought of it that way because we're trying to respect the people in the room, because also attending these meetings generally, I mean, not always, but there are DOE representatives that are also attending. It's coordinating many calendars, and there's a lot of different perspectives that get brought in and facilitating the conversation. I think after we have our second one, maybe we'll have a chance to step back and see the ease of facilitating the conversation and collecting the information from the focus group, because it's not just a one-person show. And I think that's what I think
Sure.
I think we need a little time to assess. So we'll make a note of that and see what the feasibility is for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions from work group members? And thank you for the feedback. Someone gave a feedback of someone to potentially invite, for us to invite and consider as a representative from the parent group. So that's awesome. Okay. Katie, thank you very much. Nicole, thank you for joining us. You're welcome to stick around and hear the rest, because it's up to you.
I'm nosy. I like to.
I figured that much. So what I thought I would do is I want to do two things with the presentation here around the boost concept. And part of this presentation is this is work that I am doing in my capacity as a superintendent that's related to the social determinants work group and the efforts that we're trying to make. And what Ray and I want to encourage any member of the social determinants work group to do is if you are, and this is where Ray brought up, like maybe sharing updates around things you're doing that relate to the space that we've been in here for 2 years, we want to encourage you to consider coming forward with an update or sharing with this group how you're impacting social determinants of health with students in education, regardless of where it is, as long as it's supporting students and staff. I think that that's really where we want to focus. And so for us, the chiefs, as you know, maybe you don't know, we made a commitment in January of 21 that we were going to focus on our seniors in 22 and get them across the finish line. And we were going to share, collaborate, work together to make sure those students got across the stage ready for the next stage in life. And this was using the students who reside in the city of Wilmington, much like Katie described. They had city of Wilmington residences in the municipality, and extracting that information and getting that information real time is not easy. Like, you do it once, you do it twice, but you can't keep the amount of work that goes into making that happen is laborious. And so I'm encouraged to hear that there's a plan to kind of see if that can be streamlined. And so we had a target set of targeted population of seniors that we were going after to get across the stage. And Katie or Haley, if you share the next slide. The data back from that effort was, you can see, and this is purely right from a pivot table, actually right from Katie Semmel, who was the person who worked with me to figure out how to make this, get the data from City of Wilmington merged with DSC eye tracker, so people can we can actually see how students are doing academically. She created a database of roughly 496 students back in December. I think we lost a few along the way, and early college is not represented on this report because we did get a partnership with them in Freery Charter, but we kind of lost touch with Freery Charter. And I know early college had, I think, 3 grads, and they all made it, if I'm not mistaken, from the city of Wilmington. So you can see on here, we had 496 total down there at the top chart on the lower right. Of the 496 seniors who started the school year that resided in the city of Wilmington in one of the 5 districts featured, 435 graduated. So we're looking at there an 88% grad rate of our seniors who resided in the city of Wilmington last year. And you can see the numbers for those that did not make it. A lot of lessons learned in this project, data sharing, collaboration being 2. And then the third being many of these students were 18 and were making their own decisions, and they did what they wanted to do. We didn't need parents. So parent support was almost irrelevant at that point because they were making choices for themselves. They were the adults in the room. And that was a stumbling block for some of the students. And so what we ended up doing now is we're focused on first-time 9th graders. We received the preliminary data set of same demographic, city of Wilmington, first-time 9th graders. Right now it was looking like 664, but we think it's going to go up a little bit. And the goal is to get them to 10th grade in 1 year. Like this year, they're going to be academically successful in 9th grade and get to 10th grade. Because if you can get to 10th grade, the odds are your trajectory is more likely to get to your senior year. And we hope that effort, the collaborative effort across the districts, will continue to be positive. I know communities and schools, we still are funding 3 graduation coaches, community graduation coaches from Christina, Brandywine, and Colonial are supporting a specific dedicated communities and school staff member to work with any of the students that are at risk in that 664 to get them across the line to 10th grade. I know Red Clay and Newcastle County VOTEC also have efforts, as does every high school. The superintendents have been talking about this with their leadership folks to encourage first-time ninth graders. Remember, it's a focus on them specifically, not repeat ninth graders, but first-time ninth graders, to kind of nip that repeat stigma and challenge that students face when they aren't academically successful. Don't really know some of the backstory. I know, to Ray's question, there are some of the students. I don't believe this list actually reflects the summer grads, which is those who earned their diploma by the end of September. But with many of these students, the stories of their struggle and where they land is something that I know Colonial is looking at, and each district tries to look at to make sure that they're situated to not just be dropouts, that they are actually either are in a skill, or they are employed, or they're on track for their GED. I don't have the exact number, Ray, because I can't. To do that, someone would have to go back and track back to DOE's data where they landed, and that's access that I just don't have. Each district, though, I could tell you the story of our two, what struggles they faced and where they are and why they didn't graduate. I have to say incarceration is also a big one that has an impact on the numbers. So that's kind of where we are right now. The Chiefs, we're waiting for Katie, while she's lurking and listening now, I know she's waiting to pull post-September 30 ninth graders using the same model that she described that's clunky and cumbersome to find out who they are, where they live, and then share that data back with us. And, I've pushed Katie to even make that database real time. So like if I meet with Darrell, we could easily pull up this list and see where these kids are and see what's going on in a portal that's we only have access to because we have agreed to share the data around these students with the data service center and across district lines. So it's slow. It seems like slow work, but I think it's exciting that we continue to work together. The fact that the 5 chiefs continue to want to, with this effort, I think is a testament to the fact that there's energy behind it, because it's very easy just to say, nah, it didn't pan out. I'm not gonna pitch in this time. We're just gonna stick to ourselves. So that would be all I would have to report. Incarceration member of the student, Ray. The students end up being incarcerated, and if they're over 18, they're in the adult system, and it's not as easy for us to find out what's going on with them as they are if they're at Ferris. So there's a little bit different educational model at Howard Young versus Ferris. I know that played a role in many. Yeah, it is. It's extremely sad. So that's the kind of just an example of some of the work that we do. But we want to see that the work group members, you all are doing your own things in this space. We want to encourage you to reach out to Ray and I with what you're doing, and take 15 minutes of a meeting to share it with the work group so people can see what's going on across the state and in different spaces. We have a lot of different job categories on this meeting, in this work group. Ray, is that what you were alluding to earlier in terms of trying to get the word out that we want to learn more about what work group members are doing in this space?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything that has to do with the mission of this group, and within the context of public education and early learning.
And Haley, we're trying to work on we were actually going to do a press conference or an event at Howard High School. I've talked to Joe Jones, his PIO, and our PIO have talked about sharing and releasing this. We really wanted to dovetail the two together, the success of Boost 22, the shift to 26, have actually real numbers. And what Katie also has done is we pulled to see how we do this year. We had UD also pull last year's 9th grade class, all their residences in the city of Wilmington, how many were there and how many made it to 10th grade. So we're going to have an instant, we're not using, this isn't going to be a baseline year. We're going to be measuring ourselves against what happened last year with no treatment, right? Like nobody focused on it. So we really are going to be able to see that. Once we have all that, we're looking at some kind of an event here in the next couple of weeks, just to celebrate what we've been doing and just to say we continue to work on it, but have a little bit more to share, because right now it's just not enough, I don't think.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Thanks for asking. That's all for my presentation. If there's no other questions, if anybody has any thoughts and you want to email them to me, that'd be great, around the Boost 26.
Just pausing for a minute to see if anyone has any thoughts or reaction to what you just shared, Jeff. I can't see everybody at the same time.
I think we're good. You can go
Okay.
ahead. Ray.
All right. Okay, so I'd like to share some information, opportunity that's being presented or sponsored by the Wilmington Center for Education, Equity, and Policy. We are piloting a self-care series for educators, a little different than what happens within the context of professional development. And
Is that Ray's internet cutting out or is it mine?
can you not hear me?
No, we missed you.
We miss you. You get to start back over, Ray.
Are you okay? So what I'd like to share is a pilot self-care series targeting educators, specifically boots on the ground classroom teachers, paraprofessionals, behavioral interventionists, people that are providing counseling. And it is a 3-part series that begins on Friday, October 28th. You're saying, oh, why Friday? Well, we believe that that's a good time to combine a workshop that's different than the approaches that are used during professional development, to combine that with social networking, creating authentic helping systems, and to move the participants around to some cultural organizations they may or may not be familiar with, the resources, educational resources that those cultural organizations have. So we'll start Friday, October 28th at the Delaware History Museum, specifically the Mitchell Heritage Center at 5 p.m. The registration is online. It is no cost. And each of the sessions will be led by Kim Graham, who is the Trauma Institute Director at Delaware State University. Any questions? Haley has the actual flyer. This is a bit more detail about the individual sessions. They get more intense as the series goes on. The second one will start at the Community Services Building, and then we'll move for bowling at Wilma. And then the third one in December, we're going to do a holiday loop after the workshop, starting with the Delaware Contemporary. So if you are a classroom teacher at any grade level, a behavioral interventionist, a counselor, we hope that you will join us, and we hope that you will share the information, the flyer that Haley is going to distribute to members of this social determinants work group. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Looks exciting, Ray. Did you say we're going to go bowling, Ray?
On November the 18th, yes.
Are you going to be there for that? Because that might be worth the price of admission if you're going to be bowling, just to be clear.
It's a, what do you call it? Who's been to Wilma? It's
Duck.
what is it called, Kate?
Duck
What is it
pin.
called?
It's duck pin bowling,
Duck
right?
pin bowling
It's
at
a
a
lot of
bar.
fun. I've
So
been
it's a
in
little
there. It's a lot of fun. You know, it's a restaurant, bar, bowling kind of thing. Well,
Good stuff.
that's the social
Uh-huh.
bonding component of the evening.
All right, good stuff. Thanks, Ray.
Uh-huh.
All right. Before we get to public comment, do any members of the work group have any updates to share about anything going on in their space? I see, Dawn, you have your hand up.
I do, Dr. Mentor. Thank you. It's really related to the work that we've been doing as a work group, and I'm grateful that we were able to support the increase of developmental screening and to support the legislation that passed that would require screening in all of the child care centers in Delaware. And that law will go into effect on the 1st of July. So for the next fiscal year, it will be important so currently it will be helpful, and I know Caitlin Gleason is still on this meeting, to receive the data from DOE regarding how many children are screened through the ASQ developmental screening system. How many children are screened from birth to age 5 prior to entering kindergarten per year. And we know that number will probably easily double when we're requiring all childcare to screen every year. We know our data shows that for every 10 screenings that are completed, about 1 in 10 lead to a referral for further evaluation. And so we will need increased funding to recommend increased funding for school districts, because we are the ones who process all of the ASQs for the child cares. So for example, in Colonial, we have just under 100 child cares, and we process all the screenings that are done through the child cares at this time. And then we also work with the child cares to make the families and child cares to make the referrals. And then the districts would be implementing the evaluations, as well as the birth to 3 Part C early intervention lead agency. So we need more funding for processing ASQs, more funding to support any referrals, and also additional funding for the evaluations. The child find teams in the school districts, as well as the birth to 3 child find team that implements the evals. So what would be helpful to get to receive from Caitlin and also from the Part C team is how many children are screened birth to 3 now. So birth to 3 is processing those screenings. How many children are screened at age 3, 4, and 5 prior to kindergarten? And I know at this time we don't have that. We don't have good data linking that to if those children are in childcare. But when we look at the number of overall screening, we know that that's probably going to double in a year. So to ask our districts and our birth to 3 system to do this additional work, have a mandate that's unfunded, that's not something that we want to support. So Caitlin, would be helpful to work with your team. So I'm hoping that our social determinants of health work group can make real recommendations for increased funding to make that a success.
Thanks, Tom. We'll put it on the docket for further consideration and discussion as we move through the beginning of the legislative session, specifically after the elections in November, I think is probably where we'll get more conversation around that. Thanks. Roger, you had your hand up?
I think I did, and I had a question, and it's not directly connected, but a few meetings ago, we had a conversation about student IDs and ID numbers and identifying students really from the get-go before they enter the school system, to really look forward around, like, tracking outcomes all the way from that early childhood stage. And I remember that during that conversation, someone mentioned that these were conversations happening in other areas with other groups. And because I'm completely disconnected from either the early childhood, the infant, or the educational space, I just wanted to know if anyone had any updates, or if anyone is in the loop about how those conversations are going in the state of Delaware, to allowing us to, be able to identify and track just Delaware's children even before they hit the school system for continuity, consistency.
Oh, Caitlin, I bet you have some answers.
Well, I think it's public comment. I don't know if I'm supposed to answer.
You could be I don't know, Ray, she can answer that. You're an expert witness guest into the audience that has
Sorry, Caitlin. Yes, give us the information.
Sure.
please.
So, Mr. Harrison, so your question was, how are we looking at data from birth through age 5 before children enter the school system? And are you looking for education data or health data or both?
No,
No,
Caleb, what he's talking about was, I'm sorry, I'll clarify. There was ID numbers. There was the
Right.
different identification numbers of the student, and it was a linking of a certain number to be that student's ID from K-12, not a B3 number or one number they have for one set of screening at the beginning, and then, oh, they got to do a new number here, and everything gets disconnected, and all the stuff affiliated with the previous number gets lost. I think
Yeah.
that was what we were talking about a couple of months ago.
Awesome. Thank you. That's super helpful. So I do have a lot of background on this. And so this will be my public comment. So I'm Caitlin Gleason. I'm with the Delaware Department of Education, the Associate Secretary for Early Childhood Support. And so a lot of what we're describing was uncovered in a grant process that we did statewide called the Preschool Development Grant, which we're applying to again. Get excited. And what we uncovered was a lot of behind the scenes issues about data fields not matching between different databases and having this be a problem. So one of the ideas was, hey, if we can put a MCI number or like a number that is associated with a child at birth through one of the services that they choose to participate in through DHSS, can that information stay with the child into the Department of Education? And we can certainly continue to think about that. What I will say is there were many challenges, and I can put a link to the data systems needs assessment that we're actually going to be updating, but you'll see the very old one. So the part of the problem is that we don't have child level portfolios. So I'm describing these as like folders. So we have, or a binder here, I'm a very visual person, right? So it's like the child portfolio is like the binder of information about the child. So we have a lot of different data systems that collect like individual pieces of paper about the child. And we don't necessarily have a statewide place, put all those pieces of paper on the child. So even if we were able to link the number, you would still need to pull the individual paper pieces or reports on the child because there's nowhere to actually put them. So I think it's like a twofold thing, issue around how we are using the number to pull the forms, I suppose, on children so that it's consistent. But it's also, if we want families or children to be able to have access to their own data, right, and to have that be something that travels with the child, we'd also need someplace to put all of the different forms for that one child. And that I think has been something that was the governor was interested in. I know that was part of a dashboard initiative. I think that, was trying to pull together a lot of different rules. And the reality is, because of HIPAA and FERPA, there's also a lot of barriers on what we're putting online. And the piece too is that, I talked to a lot of families through that process. A lot of people don't want their children's information online too. So I think that there's so many reasons for us to have the information perhaps aggregated, to have an MCI that maybe will allow us to pull forms. I think that's a separate idea than having a child portfolio that collects all this information that travels with them, because that might be, maybe that distinction will help ease people's, I guess, fears around information being collected, but also kind of remove some of the barriers that HIPAA and FERPA put up for us around collecting and aggregating information. That's like a really long-winded public comment answer.
No,
and I would love to talk more about this at another time.
It was a great, glad you were in the room because that's a helpful answer. It's a good to know. Thank you. Okay, any other work group members with questions or comments? Okay, that said, we did have in the chat, Amy Solomon would like to make public comment. And we'd ask Amy that you, once you get started, try to keep your comment to 3 minutes and respect the room. So the floor is yours.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. It's nice to see everyone. I used to attend a lot of work group meetings and Reading meetings and haven't been to any in a while, so it's really nice change. I'm going to try to read from a text I have so I can keep on time, like Superintendent Minzer requested. So basically, I kind of want to put this out to the group about school choice. I'm on the agenda next week to speak with the Education Committee from the Wilmington City Council about choice. And that's how I learned about Yolanda, who I put in the chat and think might be good for your focus groups. And my angle that I came at it is when you come into the system at kindergarten, a parent should be looking for quality. At that age, primary, quality indicators equal smaller class size, good student to teacher ratio, and an experienced teacher. If you look at most of the local feeder schools, K classes are about 25 students, and that's really too many, even with 2 teachers in one classroom. So they should really be capped at 18 students. It's hard to know if the DOE report card data is really accurate, if the unit count data is accurate, or if it's been manipulated to kind of fit the unit count system. So having actual data would be very helpful. But I've been advised, so if you look at choice in the top rated schools, you start to see the smaller K class sizes when you look at these top rated schools in the choice system. Those schools have priority ranking criteria because of the school alongside the school lottery system. And the school reaches capacity prior to the total applicant pool lottery inclusion. And my local feeder school, North Star, I'm not sure how they have, a 2% Black student population when the district average is 21%. But I'm looking at these relationships in the quality guidance or resources given to parents, the enrollment system that's been kind of kicked off for next month with the Delaware readiness team, and then what outcomes we're getting through the choice system and are they equitable. And I'm trying to confirm a meeting with Christine Bewley, I believe, in Red Clay next week to get more into the detail of how that happens. I know Caitlin's on an email that I have about updating the Delaware readiness and getting all the old info off. I think there's just one more thing. And the DOE didn't approve the kindergarten packet yet for some reason. And hopefully, Caitlin, you've done that as well, so you can start to hand them out. I kind of found out the readiness team wasn't ready, which is fine, but then I didn't know why they kicked it off. That's my question, because on the user side, kind of getting a halfway still in the process launch isn't that great when we're talking about equity and quality. I think the users deserve a more seamless experience. But I know that everything's new, the registration, the enrollment system's new, everything's new because of Senate Bill 82. But Senate Bill 82 did not specify quality resources being given to parents. So that needs to be addressed, because the readiness team is the perfect team to engage on quality choices. But when I spoke to Diane Frensel, who's the head of the readiness team, she said she had to remain neutral because of the wording of the legislation. So
Hey,
I've been
Amy,
very—
I just want to give you it's been 3 minutes, but please.
Okay. There we go.
Take
Thank you.
Thanks
you.
so much. We appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Amy, for sharing. Any other public comments? Did you get any, Haley?
Nope, I didn't see anyone else in the chat or have their hand raised.
Any other folks in the room who would like to make public comment? Okay. All right. Well, again, first of all, thank you for attending. Work group members, good to see you all. And those from the public, good to see you all again too. I recognize some of the names and some of the faces from the past. So it's good to be back at this work as a collective in a different capacity, in different roles with different faces. So I definitely enjoy the time together. Enjoy planning and preparing with Ray and Haley our path forward. Be on the lookout for invites from Haley to the focus groups, and then being encouraged to share those as they come. As you get more of them, encourage others to join the target specific discussions. That said, I think we are adjourned. Thank you
Thank
all
you for all you're
coming
doing,
out.
folks.
Take care now. See ya.
So.